Ladies and gentlemen, my friends, hear me today. We live in a world where troubles are many. Each of us carries a burden, a hardship, a trial we wish would disappear. And what do? We look for someone, anyone, to listen, to care, to ease the weight of our sorrow. But let me tell you something today. Not everyone who listens truly cares, and not everyone who cares can help you. There is one who sees your pain. There is one who knows the burdens of your heart before you even speak them. You don't need to tell the world your problems. You need to tell them to Him. People will judge you. People will whisper about you when you leave the room. Some may pretend to understand, but deep down, they are too consumed with their own troubles to carry yours. But God, oh, God is different. He listens without judgment. He comforts without conditions, and He answers without delay. The Bible says, cast all your anxiety on Him because He cares for you. It doesn't say tell the whole world your troubles. It doesn't say seek pity from man. No, my friend, it says to cast your burdens upon the Lord because He is the only one strong enough to carry them. Some of you today feel like prisoners to your problems. Every conversation you have is about your struggles. But let me tell you, when you live in your problems, you are no longer walking in faith. When you focus on your pain, you forget about your purpose. And when you keep looking for people to heal what only God can fix. Hear me now, your problems do not define you. Your struggles are not your identity. What defines you is not the weight of your burdens, but the strength of your faith. And faith is not built by talking about problems. It is built by trusting in God's promises. Life is a battlefield, my friends. And I ask you, what kind of soldier do you want to be? Do you want to be the warrior who stands strong in the storm, or the one who cries out for the world's sympathy? People respect those who endure with faith, not those who complain without hope. So today I challenge you, stop telling people your problems and start telling God your plans. Stop seeking sympathy and start seeking strength. Stop asking for attention and start asking for wisdom, because when you shift your focus from man to God, you will see miracles happen in your life. Trouble is a part of life. No one walks through this world without facing struggles, trials, and challenges. The rich have their worries, the poor have their burdens. The young wrestle with uncertainty, and the old carry the weight of years gone by. It doesn't matter who you are or where you come from. Problems are inevitable. But how we respond to them, how we carry them, makes all the difference. Some people believe that sharing their problems with others will bring them relief, but more often than not, it only brings more frustration. They go from one person to another, looking for understanding, for a shoulder to lean on, for someone to make things better. And yet the problems remain, because the truth is no human being can take away your troubles completely. No amount of sympathy will remove the weight from your shoulders. But there is one who can, one who has already seen your struggles, one who knows every tear you have cried, every worry that keeps you awake at night. Before you even open your mouth, He knows. And He does not just listen. He has the power to do something about it. That is why we must stop running to people and start running to Him, because while the world may offer temporary comfort, God offers real solution. People may nod their heads when you speak. They may offer words of comfort, but deep down, Very few truly care. Some will listen out of politeness, others out of curiosity, and a few might even pretend to be concerned. But the reality is, most are too occupied with their own struggles to genuinely carry yours. Have you ever noticed how when you open up about your problems, the conversation quickly shifts? Maybe they change the subject. Maybe they compare your pain to their own. Or worse, maybe they take what you've shared and turn it into gossip. You thought you were confiding in someone who understood, but now your troubles have become a topic of discussion in rooms where you aren't even present. This is not because people are cruel. It's because human nature is selfish. Most are so consumed with their own lives that they don't have the capacity to truly bear another's burdens. That's why seeking comfort from the world often leaves us feeling emptier than before. We expected understanding, but we received indifference. But there is one who listens with a heart full of love, one who doesn't just hear you, but feels your pain, sees your struggle, and desires to lift you up. Unlike people, he won't forget what you told him. He won't dismiss your pain. And he won't turn your struggles into a story for others to hear. So why seek comfort from those who cannot give it? Why pour your heart out to ears that won't remember? Instead, bring your burdens to the one who already knows them and is waiting to carry them for you. Before a word even leaves your lips, he already knows. Before a tear falls from your eyes, he has already seen it. Before you whisper a single prayer, he understands the weight pressing on your heart. You don't need to explain your pain to God. He already knows. People may ask, what's wrong? But God never has to. He is not like man who listens only when you speak. He is not like friends who may grow tired of hearing the same struggles over and over again. He is always aware, always present, always watching over you. When you wake up in the morning with worries on your mind, he knows. When you lie in bed at night replaying the troubles of the day, he knows. When you feel like no one understands, like no one sees your struggle, remember, he sees, he knows, and he cares. When you wake up in the morning with worries on your mind, he knows. When you lie in bed at night replaying the troubles of the day, he knows. When you feel like no one understands, like no one sees your struggle, remember, he sees, he knows, and he cares. So why chase after human understanding when you already have divine wisdom waiting for you? Why look for someone to listen when the creator of the universe is always there, always attentive, always ready? When you bring your burdens to him, you don't have to explain. You don't have to justify. You don't have to fear judgment, because he already knows your heart. Your problems are real, and the pain you feel is undeniable. But when you constantly dwell on them, when they become the focus of your thoughts and conversations, they begin to control you. Instead of living your life with purpose, you become trapped in worry and fear and frustration. Your problems turn into a prison, and the more you talk about them, the stronger those chains become. Have you ever noticed that the more you dwell on a problem, the bigger it seems? What started as a small concern suddenly feels overwhelming. That's because what you focus on grows. If you focus on your pain, it intensifies. If you focus on your struggles, they multiply. But if you shift your focus to faith, to hope, to God's promises, your problems lose their power over you. The enemy wants to keep you locked in a cycle of frustration, anxiety, and self-pity. He wants you to keep repeating your struggles because the more you do, the less time you spend seeking solutions. But God is calling you out of that prison. He is telling you, look up, my child. Stop staring at your troubles and start looking at me. Freedom begins when you decide to stop feeding your problems with endless worry and start feeding your faith with God's truth. Instead of constantly speaking about what's wrong, start declaring what is right. That God is bigger than your struggles, that He is in control, that your problems do not define you. There is a difference between seeking help and seeking sympathy. Seeking help leads to solutions, but seeking sympathy keeps you stuck in the same place, repeating the same problems without progress. When you constantly share your troubles with others, hoping for comfort, you may feel a temporary sense of relief, but in the long run, it weakens your spirit. Each time you pour out your struggles to the world, you reinforce them in your mind. You start to see yourself as a victim rather than a victor. You begin to believe that your problems are bigger than you, that they define you. And the more you dwell on them, the harder it becomes to rise above them. Instead of looking for a way forward, you get stuck in a cycle of self-pity. The truth is, people can only give so much encouragement before they grow weary. They may listen for a while, but eventually they will move on, leaving you with the same burdens you started with. And if you've placed your hope in human sympathy, what happens when it fades? But there is a better way. Instead of seeking sympathy, seek strength. Strength does not come from pity. It comes from perseverance. It comes from faith. It comes from trusting that God is with you even in the darkest moments. When you turn to Him instead of people, you're no longer just talking about your problems. You're stepping into the power to overcome them. So stop looking for someone to feel sorry for you. Stop waiting for the world to validate your pain. Instead, lift your eyes to the one who gives strength to the weary and power to the weak. Because when you rely on Him, you won't need sympathy. You will have victory. There is power in prayer, more power than in 1,000 conversations with people who cannot change your situation. When trouble comes, when your heart is heavy, when the weight of life feels unbearable, don't run to the world, run to God. Instead of telling everyone about your problems, tell Him. Instead of seeking comfort from people who can only listen, seek wisdom from the one who can act. Prayer is not just speaking, it is surrender. It is the moment when you stop carrying your burdens alone and place them in the hands of the Almighty. Every time you pray, you are shifting the weight off your shoulders and onto His. You are no longer struggling in your own strength. You are relying on His. Think about this. The same God who spoke the universe into existence is the same God who listens to your prayers. The one who calms the storms, who heals the sick, who raises the dead. He is the one who invites you to bring your troubles to Him. Do you really think He is unable to handle what you're going through? Do you think He is unaware? No. He knows, He cares, and He is waiting for you to come to Him. The Bible says, do not be anxious about anything, but in everything, by prayer and petition with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. Notice what it says. Not in some things, not in a few things, but in everything. That means your struggles, your fears, your heartbreak, your uncertainty. Bring it all to Him. When you choose prayer over complaining, when you choose faith over fear, when you choose to trust instead of talk, You invite God to work in your life. And when God moves, he doesn't just give temporary relief. He brings real lasting change. So the next time you feel overwhelmed, the next time you are tempted to pour out your problems to the world, stop, close your eyes, bow your head, and turn your pain. Faith is the key that unlocks the door to peace, strength, and victory. When troubles come, the question is not how big is your problem. The question is how strong is your faith, because the size of your faith will determine how you walk through the storm. Some people place their faith in friends, in family, in their own strength. But when trials come, those things will fail. People may leave, strength may fade, circumstances may not change, but God never fails. When you put your trust in him, you are standing on solid ground no matter how strong the winds of life may blow. Faith does not mean that you won't have problems. It does not mean that life will be easy, but it means that no matter what happens, you are not alone. It means that you trust in a God who is greater than every struggle, a God who holds your future in his hand. The Bible says, "For we walk by faith, not by sight." That means you may not see the answer yet, you may not see the breakthrough, but faith says, "I trust you, Lord, even when I don't understand. I believe in your goodness, even when things look bad. I hold on to your promises, even when I can't see the way forward." Talking about your problems over and over won't fix them. But trusting God, that changes everything. When you choose faith over fear, your problems no longer control you. When you stop speaking about how bad things are and start declaring how great God is, you shift from being a victim to being victorious. So today, make a choice. Will you focus on your problems, or will you focus on your faith? Will you keep telling the world how hard life is, or will you tell yourself how powerful your God is? Because when faith becomes your foundation, no storm, no struggle, no setback can shake you. Trust in him and let your faith be the solution. Life is a battlefield, and each day presents new challenges, new struggles, and new tests of character. In this battle, there are two kinds of people, warriors and whiners. The warrior faces the storm with courage, while the whiner complains about the wind. The warrior seeks strong, trusting in God's strength, while the whiner seeks the sympathy of others, hoping someone else will carry their load. But let me tell you something. Today, people respect warriors, not whiners. Nobody follows a leader who is always complaining. Nobody looks up to someone who is constantly talking about how hard life is. People are drawn to those who overcome, who endure, who rise above their struggles with faith and determination. The strongest soldiers in life are not the ones who cry out for attention. They are the ones who fight their battles in silence, on their knees in prayer, trusting in the one who gives them strength. Now, don't misunderstand me. It is okay to struggle. It is okay to feel pain. It is okay to need help. But there is a difference between seeking wisdom and seeking pity. There's a difference between sharing your burdens to find solutions and constantly talking about your problems with no intention of moving forward. Think about David in the Bible. He was a young shepherd facing a giant that others feared. The entire army of Israel stood trembling, talking about how big Goliath was, how impossible the battle seemed. But David didn't waste time complaining. He didn't talk about how unfair it was. He didn't seek sympathy. He simply stepped forward, put his trust in God, and fought. And because of that faith, he won. You see, God fights for those who trust him, not those who sit in self-pity. If David had spent his time whining instead of walking in faith, Goliath would have never fallen. But he chose to be a warrior, not a whiner. And that choice made him a king. So today, ask yourself, how do you face your battles? Do you complain about them or do you conquer them? Do you seek attention for your struggles or do you seek God for strength? Because the truth is, life will always have struggles, but those who trust in God will always have victory. The world needs more warriors, more people who fight their battles with faith, who stand strong in trials, who refuse to be defined by their problems. Be that person. Stand tall. Trust in God. And let your strength, not your struggles, define you. Your testimony is more powerful than your troubles. The struggles you face today are not meant to break you. They are meant to shape you. But too often, people spend more time talking about their problems than they do talking about their victories. They focus on their pain instead of the lessons, on their suffering instead of their growth. But what if you changed your perspective? What if, instead of dwelling on what went wrong, you began to speak about how you overcame? What if, instead of constantly telling people about your hardships, you shared how God brought you through them? Because the truth is, your testimony will help others more than your complaints ever will. Think about the great men and women of faith in the Bible. They didn't just talk about their struggles, they spoke of their victories. Job lost everything, but he didn't stay in his suffering. He held on to his faith. And in the end, God restored him. Joseph was betrayed, enslaved, and imprisoned, but he didn't spend his life talking about how unfair it was. He trusted God, and in the end, he rose to power and saved a nation. Paul was beaten, imprisoned, and persecuted. But he didn't write letters about his pain. He wrote about God's goodness, about endurance, about the victory of faith. You see, the world doesn't need more stories of defeat. It needs testimonies of triumph. People don't need to hear how bad life is. They need to hear how God is greater than any struggle. Because when you share your testimony, you give others hope. You remind them that if God did it for you, he can do it for them too. So the next time you feel the urge to tell someone about your problems, stop. Ask yourself, am I speaking life or am I spreading discouragement? Instead of talking about how bad things are, start declaring how good God is. Instead of focusing on your wounds, start sharing how you are healing. Because your testimony has the power to inspire, to encourage, and to bring others closer to God. Your struggles are temporary, but your testimony is eternal. So don't let your problems define your story. Let your faith, your perseverance, and your victory be what people remember about you. God never leaves his children alone. It might feel like you're walking through life by yourself sometimes, like the weight of your troubles is too much to bear and the road ahead is too uncertain. But the truth is, God is always with you, whether you feel his presence or not. He has promised to never forsake you, to never leave you in the midst of your struggles. When you are walking through the storm, it's easy to feel abandoned. The noise of life, the weight of your worries, and the silence of unanswered prayers can make it seem like God is distant. But let me remind you today, God's presence is not defined by how you feel, but by his faithfulness. When the Israelites were trapped between the Red Sea and the pursuing army of Egypt, it looked like there was no way out. They were certain they were about to be destroyed, yet in that very moment God was there, leading them with a pillar of cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night. He was preparing a way for them, even when they couldn't see it. When David faced Goliath, he was alone in his strength, but God was with him, empowering him to defeat the giant. Even in the darkest moments of life, when you feel like you are walking alone, God is right there with you. He is not some distant, uncaring deity. He is a loving Father who promises to walk beside you every step of the way. And his presence is not just passive, he is active in your life, working behind the scenes to bring good out of your struggles. So when the storm rages, when your heart feels heavy, when the path ahead is unclear, remember that God has never left you and he never will. You are his child and he is with you today, tomorrow, and always. Trust in his presence and let that be the anchor that holds you steady in every storm. In conclusion, my friends, remember this. Life will always present us with challenges, struggles, and moments of pain, but it is not our problems that define us. It is how we choose to face them. You have a choice. You can either let your struggles control you, or you can let your faith lead you to victory. Instead of telling the world your problems, bring them to the one who already knows them and has the power to change them. Seek his strength, his wisdom, and his peace. Your testimony, built on faith and perseverance, is a powerful witness to the world. The world doesn't need more complaints. It needs more stories of hope, of triumph, of the unwavering faith that God is bigger than any challenge we face. And even in the hardest moments, never forget, God is with you. He will never leave you. He is walking beside you, guiding you through every storm. So today, choose to walk in faith. Choose to trust God with your burdens. Choose to speak life and victory instead of defeat and despair. The battles are real, but so is the strength and grace God offers you. Trust in him and watch how he will carry you through, bringing you out stronger, wiser, and more confident in his love and power. May God bless you all with his peace and strength as you walk forward in faith, leaving your troubles in his hands.